Hi everyone, Russell here again. So today I'll be doing a quick review on the Honda Talon. So I've had it just about a year, a little over a year, and I have about 4,000 miles on it. So I'm gonna go in depth of the issues I've had and the things I don't like about it. But don't take it in the wrong way, because I like the Talon and I would definitely buy it again. I just want, to put all the information out there for people that are looking to buy one so they know what to expect when they get it. Problem number one, the Honda Talon Airbox. Okay, the Airbox actually works great as far as filtering out the dust, but the snorkel right here is just a dust vacuum. So the snorkel will be located right above the rear passenger tire with a little plastic cover on it. But if you're in dusty conditions, plan on every 300 miles changing out the filter. Okay, that is the absolute worst part. Okay, once you get the cover off there, there's a seal that goes in there, a one-piece seal that goes all the way around the cover. And then once you pull the filter out and pull these 8 bolts, which I have already removed that, there's a second seal, one piece that goes all the way around there. So the reason I bring this up is, if you're going to inspect your filter or change it out, be extremely careful when you're putting this back together. Because if you don't get the cover on right, dust is going straight to your intake, going to burn up your engine. Okay, also make sure you get the filter properly placed and tightened down. So definitely keep an eye on that. So if you're only going to buy one accessory for the Honda Talon and you're in dusty conditions, definitely buy the Honda S&B original accessory particle separator. I think it's around 500 bucks or so is the MSRP on it. Okay, I went hundreds of miles without it, and then I probably have 3,000 miles with the particle separator. So if you want to change that $50 filter out every 300 miles in dusty conditions, leave it as is. If you want to go 1,500 to 2,000 miles on one filter with the particle separator, spend the 500 bucks and install the particle separator. I'll put a link in the description below because I have a separate install video on the particle separator. So problem number 2 is the front driveline. Okay, there's definitely a design flaw here that I'm hoping Honda will fix, but they haven't as of May 2020. So what's going on is the front driveline has 2 U-joints in it. Okay, there's a inner retaining clip that holds the cups of the U-joint in. And what's going on is that retaining clip is working its way loose, falling out, and then the cup of the U-joint works its way out of the driveline. And then you'll be going down the road and all of a sudden it's just a bang, 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 because your driveline is actually hitting the 2 retaining loops that go around your driveline. So the first time I had this happen was at 2,700 miles before the turbo kit was installed. The rear U-joint failed, the cup came out. It was replaced under warranty, and by that I mean they replaced the entire driveline with both of the U-joints. 300 miles later, the front U-joint failed, same thing. So I'm actually on my 3rd driveline as of right now. So hopefully Honda will fix this, because it's nonsense. Okay, not necessarily an issue, but something I dislike is the turning radius. And keep in mind, this is the 1000R, so the turning radius on this is worse than the 1000X. So if you want more suspension travel, you'll go with the R, but you're going to suffer on the turning radius. Absolutely horrible. The next thing I've been complaining about since day one is the rear suspension, and I've spent hours and hours adjusting, modifying. So right out of the factory, with the factory setup, your rear suspension is going to be jarring on certain bumps. It's going to be very stiff. It's going to be very hard. A few things I've done is I have some aftermarket springs I've tuned it to where I can actually fly decently flat. It handles bumps, but I've spent a lot of money and a lot of time to get to this. So factory setup is absolutely horrible. If you try to jump this thing whatsoever, it's going to be an automatic dangerous nosedive, which a lot of side-by-sides nosedive as well. But I'm just telling you ahead of time that the rear suspension, to get it to where it needs to be, is going to take some time and money and effort. Another thing I don't like is the Fox Podium 2.5 shocks. I've upgraded the reservoir cap, so this is not factory. The factory cap, you actually have to put a needle in. This, you remove the cap, you actually have a Schrader valve, so you can just fill, check, or release pressure. So these shocks should be at about 200 pounds of pressure of nitrogen. The factory setup will bleed off, almost guaranteed. So if you go and check the pressure, I've had mine as low as 70 when there should be set at 200. So I'll put a link in the description on the install and where you can buy these aftermarket reservoir caps. So the fuel tank has about 7 gallons in it. That's probably about average. I guess this really isn't a complaint, but I wish the Talon would have about 10 gallons. So one thing I've done to offset that is the two 3.5 gallon fuel tanks I have on the back, one on each side. So that gives me an extra 7 gallons of fuel, because I like going out in the mountains for days at a time. So 7 gallons is just not enough in my opinion. Something I want to bring up is keep in mind that this is a sports side-by-side. So the brakes, okay? If you're just the average driver, you know, going out, not doing anything crazy, the brakes are probably going to be good enough for you. But where I have this thing souped up and I take it on the racetrack and, you know, I'm going full throttle, full brakes, the factory brakes will overheat. They're just inadequate for any type of racing or hard driving that you want to do. So if you're just going to do the normal use, they're more than good enough. Just want to let you know, if you want to push it to the limits, the brakes are inadequate. Okay, the interior space, it's okay. I'm 6'1", I'm comfortable, but when you get into some of the competitors' vehicles, it's a little more roomy inside. So, you know, Honda just saved a bunch of money by using the same cab for the X and the R and just changed up the suspension. It's okay, but you definitely want to spend some time sitting in it, especially if you're a larger person, to make sure it's adequate for you. So just something to keep in mind. So as you can see, I have 32-inch tires on it, but I do have my 28s on there frequently for the racetrack. So this thing will handle 32-inch tires absolutely no problem. The only issue that you're going to run into by upsizing your tires is the mapping of the transmission for shifting. So if you keep everything at factory, throw 32s on there, you're going to have some goofy shifting occasionally. If you have the turbo kit, you can reflash and remap your transmission for 28, 30, and 32-inch tires, and it's going to shift a lot better with the new map for those tire size. So definitely put 32s on it if you want, but you'll get some weird shifting occasionally. So here's what the particle separator looks like right there. I'm currently working on a prototype with the turbo kit to incorporate the particle separator for it. This is just an ultra cheap intake hose that I have just for testing, but I did order a custom intake, much higher quality than that hunk of junk, but it's working for now. So the particle separator, as you can see, this is a spare tire bar on there that I've added, because the particle separator is not compatible with the rear panel, because the directions say to put it on the top roll bar or the bottom roll bar right where my rear panel's at. So I can provide the link in the description for the spare tire mount, and how I have it set up, I can still put the spare tire on top of that. So I've removed the factory airbox. As you can tell, there's the intercooler instead. If you're not familiar, this is the Jackson Racing filter housing box. So they basically put it down here where the snorkel is at, where I was talking about earlier, which is an absolutely horrible idea. Not only did it suck up a ton of dust, it actually somehow was getting a bunch of mud in there, and I haven't even been in the mud that much, so a little bit confusing. So I'm just working on fixing the problem, putting the airbox up here, particle separator. So probably in 1 to 2 videos in the future, I'll have the complete directions and install on how to set this up like I have it. There have been a couple of recalls on this. I guess some of the fans mounted on the radiator were wired wrong, so they weren't kicking on like they were supposed to. I have not had that issue. Also, there was a missing collar on reverse, so they basically, for the recall, they had to put a camera in and just make sure the collar was on there. So I haven't had an issue with that, but I guess, I don't know, like 3% or 5% of the vehicles had those issues going on. I have been happy with all the Honda accessories as far as functionality goes. I just have a couple issues I'll show you. Of course, all of them are ridiculously overpriced and terribly expensive, but functionality is good. One issue I'm having right here is the paint's chipping off and it's rusting. So keep in mind, this is like a $700 windshield. I mean, we have rust all over, rust up here. The thing that frustrates me is the price, and then you have this, and it's not even a year old. So keep in mind, I bought this a year ago. I ordered all of the accessories at the same time, but they kind of trickled in over the next 4 months because they were on back order. So I think I've had this windshield in for roughly 8 months. And the other thing that's frustrating is like my X5, which, you know, I have a rain sensor, every single option in that X5, and the windshield is cheaper to replace in my X5 than it is in a Honda Talon. So for it to fall apart like this is very disappointing. The other thing I do not like is the mirrors. They're not that great, and then once you put the upper door panels on like I have, they're absolutely worthless. So the passenger can just barely see that mirror, and then I can barely see the mirror on the driver's side. So I'm done complaining about the Talon. Like I said, I would still buy it, so don't take the video in the wrong way. I just want to get everything out. So the DCT, Honda is spending a lot of time promoting this DCT, and that's for good reason, okay? There's some major advantages, and of course there's some disadvantages. The thing I like is, especially with the turbo kit, with the DCT, you can control your RPMs and keep your turbo spooled up, so you don't have that lag. The other thing is the crank to wheel horsepower loss. Okay, on the Talon, you're looking, you know, according to dynos, you're looking at 10 to 15% power loss from crank to wheels, which is unmatched. Okay, if you look at CVTs, the power loss from crank to wheel horsepower is going to be between 20 and 30%. So for me, that's a big advantage. Like, I wish they would stop, advertising crank horsepower and only advertise wheel horsepower. So keep in mind, and I know a lot of people, especially with Polaris, they buy a Polaris and then they put a different clutch on it and a different belt, and then they don't have near the issues. So with the DCT, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about your belt temperature. You don't have to, worry about replacing it. So, you know, you get 1,000 miles on this and burn up a belt, you go to your dealer, they're not going to replace it for free. You have problems with your clutch, it's not part of the warranty. So I don't want to be in the middle of nowhere and then have to change a belt, and then I don't want to worry about my belt temperature, and I don't want to worry about water getting in there, or sand, or any other of those issues. So that's where the DCT, I think, is the best option. Now, if you're going to do quarter-mile drag races, which I guess that's important to people in side-by-sides, not me personally, yes, the CVT is going to be faster because there's no shifting. It's just full throttle, go all the way down. But I don't have 20 inches of suspension travel to do straight line drag racing. So that's not important to me. For other people, it could be. You know, the more I ride with CVT side-by-sides, the more I've kind of identified a common denominator with people, and that's belt anxiety. I don't think most side-by-side owners that have a CVT realize the belt anxiety they have. I mean, you know, paying attention to their temperature, or, you know, pulling somebody out, or there's just a bunch of different things that they're worried about. You know, I'll just hop in, for example, you know, pull a pickup truck 3 or 4 miles behind me. I don't worry about belt temperature, my clutch, none of that stuff. I just put it in low, and I've had to pull people out before. So I've noticed a lot of people have belt anxiety in their side-by-side. So it's just something you don't have to worry about with the Talon. So if I had to purchase a Talon again today, I would actually take the extra time because I'm not that far from California, and I would buy a California model. So if you're not familiar with this, the Talon, there's basically 2 models. One model, the model I have, is for everybody in the world except for California, and the other model is California only. And the difference between the two is the evap system. How the evap system works is it's going to eliminate any fuel smell. So if you park it in a garage, you have an enclosed trailer, you have a toy hauler, whatever, there's going to be 0 fuel smell. The other difference is there's also 2 vacuum ports in the throttle body with the evap system. So with this, I had to drill into the throttle body to add a vacuum line. So I would definitely buy a California model again if I had to do it over. So I get a ton of questions about the turbo kit, and I'm making a separate video just for that. I mean, I'll tell you in this video, if I had to do it over again, I definitely wouldn't spend $5,800 for it. But I'm gonna go in depth on my next video about that. So, you know, please tune in, or please consider subscribing, and I'm gonna go way in depth on the turbo and the issues I've had. So, you know, thanks for all of the subscribers. I have several other Honda Talon owners that I frequently communicate with, and I won't throw your names out, but you know who you are. So thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, let me know. And like I said, I do love my Talon. I would buy it again, and don't take this video in a negative way. So thanks for watching.